Chapter 971. Look at the way they educate their child. Black Hawk's underlings were momentarily a little anxious when they saw so many people surround them. They were all still asking each other what they should do. The people on the other side were Gu Jingze's men. They had surrounded them without hesitation, dampening their spirits completely. The child inside was clearly Gu Jingze's child. Why had the father and son each brought their men here to cause such a huge scene? When Gu Jingze's car stopped moving, he saw Black Hawk's underlings standing right in front of him. He slowly got out of the car and looked inside before saying to the people in front of him, "Hand Gu Xinian over to me." Black Hawk's men quickly said, "Mr. Gu, please let us off. Without any command from our boss, we can't casually let him go." Gu Jingze said, "I'll bear the consequences if anything happens. You guys can just release him." Of course, Black Hawk's underlings did not dare to. "Aren't you aware of our boss's temper? That will only kill us. We really can't do that. Sir, why don't you? Since you can't do that, I'll go in using my method. If you guys stop me from going in, the casualties and fatalities won't be within my control." Gu Jingze immediately looked inside calmly. He used his eyes to command his men. Thereafter, they were about to rush in directly. Black Hawk's men were so frightened that they were about to piss themselves. They weren't really going to start fighting, right? But just then, from inside, a young and tender voice with a slight chill pierced through the crowd. "Stop." Everyone turned to look. Their savior was here. Gu Xinian stood there with his small stature, but he looked more eye-catching than anyone else there. He looked at Gu Jingze. "Why are you looking for me?" Gu Jingze asked, "Do you know how worried your mother is back at home?" Gu Xinian said, "I know, but I simply wanted to make her a little worried." Gu Jingze looked at Gu Xinian. "Come over here first. I have something to ask you." Gu Xinian said, "If you have any questions, just ask like this." Gu Jingze stared at him. There was a hint of stubbornness on the child's young face. He knew that the child was a stubborn person just like himself. Even though he was angry, he could not express it. He could only look at Gu Xinian and ask, "How did you know these things? How did you find out about Union's matter? What are you trying to do now? Also, where did you get these men from? Tell me." Gu Xinian stood there. "Father, if I tell you everything, what can I even do?" Gu Jingze reminded himself to be patient. "You can ask me anything. If you investigate it on your own, you will only find out the brief facts anyway." Gu Xinian said, "You speak as if you will tell me if I ask." Gu Jingze said, "You." Gu Jingze frowned. "Are you coming over or not?" Gu Xinian shook his head. "I'm not going over." Gu Jingze swept his gaze over the people behind him. The people behind Gu Xinian were completely devoid of facial expressions. Each of them did indeed look as if they had been trained by the Gu family. However, these people were not guards of the Gu family. Although Gu Jingze's memory was not particularly complete, he could still remember most of the guards of the Gu family. However, none of these people looked familiar to him. Who exactly were these people? He looked at them. "Where did you guys come from? Who told you to follow Nianian?" They remained silent. Gu Jingze coldly made his voice more resolute. "As the head of the Gu family, every single person in the Gu family must obey my command." They still remained silent. Gu Xinian scoffed. "Not every single person has to listen to you. Personal guards don't have to obey the command of the head of the household, right?" He was very quick to learn when it came to such things. However, in saying this, did he mean that these people were his personal guards? He definitely did not remember giving Nianian these personal guards. Gu Jingze asked, "Who exactly gave them to you?" "Nianian, if you tell me, I can still make a decision for you." "What if you've been deceived?" "He won't lie to me. He doesn't lie to me like all of you." Gu Jingze stared at Gu Xinian. It seemed to be written on his face that he was impervious. Persuading him was probably a futile exercise. Gu Jingze waved his hand directly and said, "Fine. In that case, I'll help you test them first." The people beside them were immediately alarmed. What did he mean? Were they going to fight again? However, just when they were starting to loosen their shoulders, their true savior came later. Gu Xinian, what exactly are you up to? Lin Che was here. She was reprimanding him while getting out of the car. She then walked towards him in quick steps. As expected, Gu Xinian's face looked a little troubled upon seeing Lin Che. But just as he had said, he had done this precisely to tell her that he was currently angry. Thus, he continued to stand there and watch Lin Che walk towards him, poker-faced and silent. Lin Che ran straight towards Gu Xinian inside. Gu Xinian, what exactly are you doing? Gu Xinian looked at Lin Che. I know everything, mother. Lin Che asked in astonishment, what do you know? Gu Jingze pulled Lin Che towards him and said something into her ear. Lin Che immediately came to a realization and looked at Gu Xinian. You know that Black Hawk? He's my uncle, so Union and I. I'm sorry Nianian. Lin Che looked at Gu Xinian and said seriously, Nianian, it's my fault for not telling you. But won't you listen to my explanation too? Gu Xinian said, you had so many chances to tell me directly. You could have explained it to me slowly but you didn't. Lin Che said, you're right. But I felt that it would be better for Union herself to tell you after she found out. Gu Xinian said, but she doesn't know it now. Furthermore, you guys didn't tell her. How could they know? So are you blaming me for not telling Union? Lin Che asked. Gu Xinian nodded. Lin Che said, Nianian, I couldn't tell Union because I'm not involved after all. On the other hand, he's Union's father. He has the right to choose when to tell Union and how to tell her. If you rashly tell Union and her mother too, what if they aren't ready to accept it? Wouldn't Union feel even more upset if your Auntie Firen took Union away from here? Why would they not be ready to accept it? Gu Xinian asked. Lin Che said, think about it. Why wouldn't someone know who her father is? Why wouldn't a mother know who her child's father is? It's because their affairs are more complex than you think. That's why your Auntie Firen needs time to accept it. Look, Uncle Mo treats them very well right now. He's getting closer to them in his own way and getting them to like him. If so, why should we interfere with the progress he has made? Gu Xinian lowered his head. Lin Che asked, I know that you did it for Union's benefit, but Union's father has Union's well-being in mind even more, right? He really wants to acknowledge Union as his daughter. He's also desperate to hear his own daughter call him father, but he can't be too hasty because he must make the proper preparations. Nianian, I know that you're very smart, but adults have their own plans. They also have to consider many other things. That's why we couldn't tell you everything. Chapter 972. Look at how the Gu family celebrates New Year's Eve. Lin Che said, that's enough. Come here first, Nianian. Gu Xinian continued standing there unmoving. At the side, Gu Jingze asked, don't you want to see how Union and her father are getting along? Let's go. We can go and take a look right now. Gu Xinian looked up. Gu Jingze said, come on. The new year will arrive soon. Gu Xinian pursed his lips in thought. At last, he moved his little head and nodded in agreement. Gu Xinian swiftly instructed his underlings to pack up. Gu Jingze also glanced at the people around them. Every single one of the Gu family's bodyguards left as well. Only then did the bodyguards at the club and Black Hawk's men who were surrounding the area only let out a sigh of relief. They watched Gu Xinian walk to Gu Jingze and Lin Che. He only looked a little like a child when Lin Che carried him and started reprimanding him. The family of three left. After a night of tumult at the club slowly regained its atmosphere. The people who had been standing guard all went home for New Year's Eve with their hearts at ease as well. But everyone was still sighing in admiration at the way the wealthy people educated their children. Their child came directly for an actual showdown and nearly caused a fight. The effectiveness of their early education was so shocking. However, their child had caused such a ruckus just by rebelliously running away from home. It was a total eye-opener as well. When it came to children from ordinary households, the matter would end after they simply got into a fight. But a child from the Gu family came directly to engage in a gang fight. This resembled a scene in a blockbuster movie. It was definitely unforgettable. At Mu Firen's house. Gu Jingze and Lin Che brought Gu Xinian to the entrance. They looked inside. The scene of the family of three was so delightful. Mu Firen was making dumplings. Beside her, Black Hawk and Union were playing together. Union was smiling so happily that her eyes had curved into slits. While watching, Gu Xinian instinctively smiled slightly. However, just then, Mu Firen looked up and saw the people outside. Immediately, she was a little surprised. She quickly put down the noodles in her hands and went to open the door. Lin Che, Mr. Gu, and little Nianian, why are you all here? Union ran out in an instant as well. When she saw Nianian, she happily shouted, Brother Nianian, you're here too. I was still wondering why you weren't spending New Year's Eve with us. Gu Xinian patted Union's little head. Black Hawk appeared from the back as well. Gu Jingze glanced inside. We came to take a look. Lin Che also lifted her head, looked inside, and said, yes. I was thinking that we usually celebrate together. I felt very unaccustomed at the fact that you were celebrating on your own. Mu Firen smiled warmly, hugged Lin Che, and said, I know that all of you are worried about me, but it's really nothing. Besides, Mr. Mo is here. She looked at Mo Jinyan beside her. Mo Jinyan looked at the three of them. What should I do now? I definitely didn't make enough dumplings for you to eat. Gu Jingze said, forget it. We still have to go to the Gu residence to celebrate the New Year. The moment she heard that they were about to leave, Union was extremely reluctant. She tugged at Nianian and said, Brother Nianian, are you going to leave? But the countdown is starting very soon. Nianian looked at Union. He felt very reluctant to leave too. From a young age, the two children had been like twins. Wherever they went in a pair. They celebrated the New Year together too. They were extremely unhappy as it was their first time being apart. Lin Che looked at the two children. She did not know whether it was her emotional sensitivity during pregnancy that was causing her heart to ache terribly as she looked at them. Gu Jingze looked down at the tender emotion in Lin Che's eyes. Then, he looked up and said, come to the Gu residence with us and celebrate the New Year. Mu Firen looked at Gu Jingze in surprise. Lin Che was a little surprised too. Is that okay? Gu Jingze said, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, we celebrate events just for fun. Isn't it great to have everyone gather together? Black Hawk said, there's no need to go to such trouble. Gu Jingze said, you have nothing much to worry about either. Since you're Lin Che's older brother, Nianian's uncle, of course, it's within reason for you to go. Black Hawk's eyes met Lin Che's. They both expressed some helplessness at their current identities. Gu Xinian pulled Union along. Come on, let's go together then. There are so many fun things there. I can take you with me and we can play together. Union was still an obedient child. She looked up to see what her mother was thinking. However, Lin Che had already pulled Mu Firen towards her. Alright, let's stop wasting time. Come on, if we still don't leave, it's going to be the New Year already. But Lin Che said, it's fine. There are so many people there today. We can look for a place to celebrate on our own. We can even watch the fireworks. We won't have to bother with other people then. Anyway, no one will bother us either. There are so many people and no one knows anyone. Mu Firen had no choice. She saw that Union was indeed reluctant for Nianian to leave. For the sake of the two children, they could only agree. Gu Jingze's family left first. Thereafter, Black Hawk also headed there together with the mother and daughter. They arrived at the old Gu residence in no time. This place was indeed bustling with excitement. The numerous relatives of the Gu family were all here to celebrate the New Year. It was Mu Firen's very first time coming into the territory of an old and prominent family like this one. Now that she was here in the flesh, she felt that this place was truly formidable. The massive courtyard already seemed extraordinary. On the other hand, Black Hawk did not think much of it. He followed them in while leading Union by the hand. He tried his best to look after her every need. Mu Firen looked inside. Thanks to Lin Che, I've finally managed to participate in celebrations held by one of the most prominent families. Although Black Hawk did not care, he also had to admit that it was one of the oldest families in Sea Nation after all. Such families had more rules to follow and their affairs were very complicated as well. He looked at her and said, "Go in with me later. It's chaotic outside. Don't run off on your own." Okay. She trailed behind Black Hawk. Although this was an unfamiliar place, she seemed to not feel any anxiety because someone was leading her. After going in, Gu Jingze looked at Gu Xinian and asked him, "You still haven't told me who exactly gave you those men." Only then did it occur to Lin Che. He's right. Gu Xinian, quickly tell me the truth. What exactly happened today? Gu Xinian's face immediately stiffened. We're celebrating the new year. Don't talk about these troubling matters. Seeing that Gu Xinian was about to run away, Lin Che yanked him back swiftly. Gu Xinian, this is no simple matter. You must tell me what exactly is going on. At the back, Gu Jingze also said, even if you don't say it, it's only a matter of time before I find out the truth. Why don't you just confess directly? Gu Xinian stood there. They're shadow guards. Shadow guards? Lin Che did not understand. She looked up at Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze's gaze hardened. Did your grandfather give those shadow guards to you? Grandfather Gu Qigong. Lin Che seemed to come to a sudden realization. Had Gu Qigong given Gu Xinian these men? Lin Che lifted her head and asked Gu Jingze, are these people very formidable? Gu Jingze was still staring at Gu Xinian. Upon hearing Lin Che's question, he said lowly, shadow guards belong to an elite force under the Gu family. They're specially trained to investigate various secret incidents and make their move in the dark. Do you think they're formidable or not? Chapter 973. I only treat people well if they are worthy of it. Lin Che appeared even more surprised. Are they that impressive? She looked at Gu Xinian in front of her and felt that this was not the way she wanted to educate him. How could this happen? Because he belonged to the Gu family, he was destined to have different experiences from ordinary people. She was aware of this as well, but she had never thought that he was going to be this different from such a young age. Gu Xinian stood there and looked at Lin Che. Lin Che was slightly astonished and a little worried at the same time. Such a young child already had his own personal army. Oh my god, exactly what kind of world was the Gu family living in? She found it a little difficult to accept. She looked at Gu Xinian and could not imagine what a child as young as him would look like commanding others. Gu Jingze said to Lin Che, that's enough. No need to worry about him. Thinking about the fact that he can even make use of the shadow guards to find out about Black Hawk's affairs, you should know that he's able to utilize these shadow guards. Precisely. He knew how to make use of shadow guards at such a young age. Even she herself had felt strange when she had just gotten a personal army. But Gu Xinian had obviously adjusted to it much better than she had. Lin Che was truly unable to accept it. She could only wonder in disbelief if one's bloodline was so important. Was it because he ultimately had the blood of the Gu family running through his veins, so he naturally had innate capabilities when it came to such things? Gu Jingze said, that's enough. Let him leave first. Seeing that Union had arrived as well, Lin Che sent him to play with Union first. As if he had been pardoned, Gu Xinian immediately ran off hastily. Gu Jingze said, since father gave them to him, let him keep them. Of course, the shadow guards trained by father are of the highest class. They are bound to be beneficial to him. Lin Che tilted her head. So, Nianian is destined to be different from typical children. Properly attending kindergarten, going to primary school, going to secondary school, and ordinary life like that. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. Look at how daring he is. He may not agree to being ordinary even if you want him to be. Lin Che pursed her lips. You people from the Gu family are really abnormal. Gu Jingze smiled and said, you're also a part of the Gu family now. She said, but I'm not as abnormal as you guys. Gu Jingze said, you people from the Lu family aren't any better either. Just look at Lu Baikan. Oh, right, now, she was actually of the surname Lu as well. Only she kept forgetting. She said, tisk, tisk, tisk. The Lu family and I are different. Gu Jingze said, come to think of it, you share several similarities with Lu Baikan as well. What? I didn't realize any similarities at all. Gu Jingze said, For instance, there is no lower limit to your intelligence. Lin Che immediately chased after Gu Jingze and started hitting him. Gu Jingze had started running away at first, but it occurred to him that her body could not take it right now, so he immediately stopped in his tracks and did not run any further. She hit him fist after fist and only stopped when she was tired. Black Hawk saw this scene from behind them and smiled while saying, My younger sister is the only one who dares to hit Gu Jingze like this. When he looked at Lin Che and Gu Jingze together at this moment, he felt a little proud. This woman who had even managed to subdue Gu Jingze so perfectly was actually his younger sister. Mu Firen looked at Black Hawk. That's so strange. How did she become your younger sister? Black Hawk looked at Mu Firen. Why, is there anything wrong with her being my younger sister? His expression said it all. Is there anything bad about me at all? Under his gaze, Mu Firen instinctively lowered her head and the corners of her lips turned up. So this man could also look like a child who did not get the sweets he wanted. Mu Firen said, That's not what I mean. You're quite a nice person. Even though there are always rumors. The words had tumbled out of her mouth as she had felt very relaxed. Black Hawk immediately froze. He looked in Mu Firen's direction and probed, What are they about? Mu Firen said sheepishly, Nothing much. Black Hawk stared at her as if he would not avert his gaze until she replied to him. Under his persistent gaze, Mu Firen could only look down and mumble, According to the rumors you're very formidable. Black Hawk chuckled grimly. I think the rumors probably say that I'm very cruel, that I kill people without blinking, that I'm a brute, and that I'm terrifying. Mu Firen's face turned red. He seemed to be right. The rumors seemed even more terrifying than what he had said. According to the rumors, he was the top assassin and countless people had died at his hands. Furthermore, anyone who offended him would definitely be in a living hell. Anyway, they made it sound as if he was Satan. Ever since she had gotten to know him, Mu Firen had heard such remarks about him too. Before she had known Black Hawk, she had not cared about these rumors too. But after he suddenly came into her life, she would silently commit the rumors about him to memory when she heard them. Black Hawk pulled her hand into his. Mu Firen had no choice but to look up at him. She looked straight into his dark eyes and he said calmly, So, do you think I'm as they describe in the rumors? Mu Firen thought about it and shook her head. No. Black Hawk asked, Really? You're speaking the truth, right? Of course. I have no reason to deceive you anyway. I think you're quite a good person. You're not that evil. As for the rumors, there are so many rumors about me too. I've been in the entertainment industry for so many years. Of course, I know that rumors can be very ridiculous at times. Mu Firen genuinely felt that he was a very good person. Sometimes, such thoughts made her shocked too. She thought that an assassin was quite a good person. Was she crazy? However, for some reason, in her memories, Black Hawk performed very well each time. He was also very kind towards Union and very gentle towards her. He had never lost his temper at all. Perhaps there was really something wrong with the rumors circulating outside. Maybe it was because of his identity. After all, he was indeed a person who had dabbled in crime, so everyone felt that he was terrifying. If she did not know him personally, she would have probably found him very terrifying as well if she heard these rumors. Black Hawk gazed down at her as if he was about to stare inside her eyes. If so, what if the rumors are true? Mu Firen was immediately struck dumb. But Black Hawk looked inside. I only treat people well if I think they're worth it. I never waste time on people who don't deserve it. So the rumors may be true. If the rumors were true, was he really that evil? Was it because she had never seen his evil side? Wait a minute, what did he just say? He only treated people well if they were worthy of it. Was he talking about her? Mu Firen's face turned red again. Chapter 974. We're together on this New Year's Eve. However, Black Hawk looked up when he finished speaking. As if nothing had happened at all, he looked at Gu Jingze in front of him and walked towards him. Leaving behind Mu Firen, whose face was completely red. Many thoughts were running through her head and her heart felt extremely chaotic at the moment. Black Hawk walked over with his arm behind his back. The old Gu residence looks quite nice. Gu Jingze clapped. You can set up something like this if you want to. Black Hawk said, "No way. I recall that your family's residence has been around for at least a few hundred years. Where can I find such an old building?" At the side, Lin Che heard this and asked, "Really? Has it been around for that long?" Black Hawk asked, "Don't you know?" "I don't know, I've never been to this area in the past." Black Hawk said, "The Gu family is a family with a very long history. This land was passed down the generations. I heard that the geomancy here is very good. That's why the Gu family has not declined for so many years." Gu Jingze put his arm behind his back and said, "That has nothing to do with geomancy. It's a matter of intelligence." Black Hawk scoffed, "I'm complimenting you. Don't be such a narcissist, alright?" Gu Jingze said, "Even if I let you stay here, you wouldn't be able to make it grow into what it is today no matter how good the geomancy in your house is." "Hey, you're way too condescending of me." Gu Jingze looked at him. "I didn't think this way at first. But since you and Lin Che are siblings, your intelligence should be at the same level. She's so stupid, you can't be any smarter either." Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze. At this moment, the two siblings spoke with one voice. They both glared at this arrogant man. Mu Firen watched from the side and could not help but smile. "I didn't think so at first. But looking at you two like this, you siblings actually resemble each other a little. Your eyes look the same when you're glaring at people." Mu Firen stood beside Lin Che. "So this place is that old. No wonder it looks like it is so full of secrets." Lin Che said, "I just found out about this too. I just felt that this place was very big." "You're right, it's very big. It looks very beautiful too. Furthermore, it simply looks different from the houses of typical prominent families. No wonder it's the most prominent family." "Yes, when I came to the Gu residence, I also felt that it was different from the Lin residence where I had been in the past." Lin Che continued, "But the Lin family is just a poor, humble family. Of course, it cannot compare. Some of the prominent families that I've seen can't match up to this either. It's all because of you that I got to experience what it means to be part of the most prominent family. I really had no idea before this." Lin Che looked at her, "Then, what idea do you have about Black Hawk?" Mu Firen did not expect Lin Che to suddenly ask this. It was because Lin Che had thought of union after what had happened with Gu Xinian this time. She felt that it was also good for union to acknowledge her own father earlier. But looking at the current situation, they really did not seem to have any intention of acknowledging each other. Lin Che could not help but feel a little anxious. However, Mu Firen wondered whether Black Hawk and herself had gotten too close to the point where others had realized that something was wrong. Mu Firen looked at Lin Che with a bashful expression on her face. Fortunately, it was now night, so her blushing face would not be easily noticed. "Why did you suddenly?" "I was just asking." Mu Firen looked at her. "That's your brother. I can speak ill of him no matter what." Lin Che smiled and said, "Hey, don't feel that you can't talk about it just because of that. He and I just started to get to know each other too. I also want to understand what other people feel about him." Hearing her say this, Mu Firen said nonchalantly, "I think he's quite a nice person. He's a very good person. Since he treats us, an orphan and a widow, so well, there's no way he will treat others that terribly too." Although he had said earlier that he was not a good person, Mu Firen felt that a truly evil person would not call himself a bad person. Lin Che looked at her. It seemed that she had a pretty good impression of Black Hawk. Lin Che herself was a little unsure whether she wanted them to be together or whether it was better for them not to be together. It would naturally be good for union if they got together. But she was also worried that Mu Firen would blame Black Hawk if she found out what had happened in the past. Furthermore, she did not know if Black Hawk was treating Mu Firen so well because he genuinely liked her. If he was actually doing it for union's sake, then there would really be no point for the two of them to be together. Thus, Lin Che was truly in a dilemma. One was the older brother she had just picked up from the street and the other was her best friend. She genuinely wished both of them well. Just then, they started setting off fireworks in the courtyard of the Gu residence. The countdown was starting soon. Each firework was brighter than the previous one. Lin Che raised her head and looked in front. Then, she said happily, "Wow! How pretty!" Gu Jingze stood at the side and gently shielded her body. Behind them, Black Hawk and Mu Furin stood up and walked towards them. They looked up at the sky together and watched the fireworks show. In front, Union and Nianian were jumping about and smiling. The scene was a feast for the eyes. It was actually Mu Furin's first time having such an exciting New Year celebration. While watching, she could not help but smile. The New Year celebrations proceeded quite perfectly. The celebrities who had appeared on the countdown program managed to generate a lot of hype. During this time, Lin Che took a break and so she did not bother with company affairs. Abby had returned as well and was busy at the company. As Lin Che had just gotten pregnant, she stayed at home every day and was well taken care of. She had people following her even when she took a step out of the house, so she was too lazy to go out as well. However, Lin Che felt more and more that Gu Jingze was even busier than she was. He left the house early in the morning and came home late at night. He basically did not stay home often. Luckily, she had asked Gu Jingze whether he did not like the fact that she was going to have another baby. Gu Jingze merely said very sincerely, "Anyway, I'm not the one who is going to bring the child up. You guys are bringing it up. I don't care whether or not you have another child." Lin Che said, "But the child will be your younger brother or sister. Don't you feel anything at all?" "In that case, I hope that it's a younger brother," he said. Lin Che asked, perplexed, "Why?" "Because," Gu Jingze continued, "I don't like girls. They're so clingy and annoying. I will even have to look after her." Lin Che felt that she had to start worrying again about whether he could find a wife in the future. But after chatting with him about this, Lin Che was also sure that he would not distance himself from her because of the child. Furthermore, after finding out that Gu Jingze already had a personal army from such a young age and had his own power, Lin Che had eventually become more accepting of the fact that Gu Jingze was busier than her. Anyway, he was destined to be extraordinary in the future. It would probably be difficult as well for her to try and suppress him now. She preferred to go with the flow. Since he was still young right now, he definitely would not cause any huge trouble either. After the New Year celebrations, the new problem that Lin Che would have to start facing was that the movie was going to be released soon. She had to start attending a wave of promotional events and would probably have to run around while pregnant. Chapter 975. Yu Minmin said it was better for her to come back to work. Over the past few days, Lin Che had been reading up on what she had to know about pregnancy. Although she had already been through it once, she was going to be away at work this time. She had basically stayed at home to rest during her previous pregnancy and had not stepped out of the house at all, so there were very few demands she had to comply with as well. But this time, she still had to put on makeup, groom herself and even put on a dress and shoes. She felt that she should read more about what she had to pay attention to. Everyone also knew that Lin Che's movie was about to be released. This was because, before the release of the movie, word had spread that she was most likely going to join the lineup for the Best Female Lead at the Golden Name Awards. As a result, everyone was looking forward immensely to her movie. However, after the New Year celebrations, the last episode of the reality show was broadcast first. The viewer ratings of the reality show were continuously breaking new records. On the last day, everyone attended the gathering together and had a party to celebrate the ratings. The company had arranged a special program to close the season. For the next episode, they would produce a special program to recap the previous episodes and to take the opportunity to promote the next season of the show. Everything seemed to be proceeding very smoothly. However, when Lin Che thought of the fact that the movie was about to be released and that this was her first movie after her comeback, she felt very nervous as well. Just then, Yu Minmin suddenly called to say that she had just returned from her vacation. Over the past few days, Yu Minmin's emotions had been unstable due to her pregnancy. Gu Jingming had therefore taken her abroad for a vacation. They had just returned after spending the New Year overseas. But their family members had not said anything either. After all, there was nothing others could say about the two of them wanting to have the world only to themselves. The moment Yu Minmin returned, she rushed directly to the Gu residence. Hearing that Yu Minmin was here, Lin Che frantically went out to pick her up. Yu Minmin's belly had already grown and she could not hide it even if she wanted to. She was dressed in much baggier clothes, and after making her entrance, she looked slightly more plump as well. However, her skin remained as fair and soft as before. Her complexion looked extremely healthy. When she saw Yu Minmin, Lin Che could not help but tease, "What's going on? Did Mr. President finally agree to let you out?" Yu Minmin pursed her lips, smiled and looked at Lin Che. "I heard that you were pregnant while I was overseas. Wow, not bad. It looks like you guys are quite efficient. You got pregnant in such a short time." Lin Che curled her lip and looked at her. The two of them had not met for a very long time. They were very touchy with each other at the moment as they quickly returned to the living room inside to chat. The maid made them tea that was beneficial to pregnant women. Yu Minmin looked at her stomach. "You're still at an early stage of pregnancy. Do you still have to attend promotional events as planned?" "Yes. The director told me that he would arrange fewer events, but there are several important ones that I still have to attend." "All right then. That would be good too. You won't be at a late stage of pregnancy when the Golden Name Awards begin. You can attend it to receive your award." "Dear me, receive what award? We don't even know for sure whether I'll get it or not," Lin Che said. Yu Minmin said, "Anyway, we'll leave it to destiny when the time comes. What's the point of thinking so much now?" Lin Che looked at her stomach and raised her eyebrows. "Have you checked if it's a boy or a girl?" Yu Minmin touched her stomach. "It's a boy, I just checked." "Really? Congratulations, congratulations. You're going to have another rascal in the house." While they also did not care about whether it was a boy or a girl, they were still curious. Yu Minmin said, "That's actually all right. Gu Jingming likes boys. He thinks that we are too busy to properly take care of a girl, but we can just let a boy grow up on their own." Lin Che said, "I think that Mr. President will definitely be a good father." Yu Minmin smiled slightly as well. In reality, she felt the same way too. Simply based on how careful he was whenever something happened to her, she knew that he was a very meticulous man. He would probably be very meticulous towards his children if he became a father in the future. Lin Che asked, "So are you also allowed to be out and about now? Did Mr. President give you permission?" Yu Minmin said, "It has been so many months. How can he stop me from going out? You can't expect me to be stifled to death during these 10 months. Lin Che chuckled, "If you don't say anything, I reckon Mr. President will force you to stay inside for 10 months. He's too anxious, but he has already agreed to let me go out and work now. I'll go back to the company in a few days to take a look. If you have any work on hand, remember to throw it to me." She really felt that she was going to grow fur from staying at home. She also felt that she was turning a little stupid from staying at home. Therefore, Yu Minmin urgently wanted to go back to work as well. Lin Che sighed, "You really can't stay put. Can't you just be a proper first lady? Telling us to allocate work to you, will we get beaten up by Mr. President?" "Of course not," Yu Minmin continued, "I was so naive back then too. When I had been ridiculously busy in the past, I always thought that it would be great if I could marry a wealthy man one day. I could stay at home every day and be a rich madam without having to do anything. I never thought that I would actually marry a wealthy man one day." And he's not just a wealthy man. He's extremely wealthy," Lin Che said. Yu Minmin said, "Precisely, it's like a fantasy too. But after actually staying at home now, I think that I'm really not cut out for that kind of life. I still want to work. I stayed at home to the point where I felt that I was no longer a person but an animal. Seriously, don't you think someone like me has a problem?" Lin Che laughed out loud and said, "So, Gu Jingming felt that your emotions were out of control before this because you were always talking like this." Before this, Gu Jingming had wanted her to stay at home and rest up more, so he freed up a lot of his time to stay at home and accompany her, but Yu Minmin's mood remained consistently down. Gu Jingming had no choice but to bring Yu Minmin abroad. While they were overseas, Yu Minmin discussed the matter with Gu Jingming. Gu Jingming felt that her happiness was the most important, so he agreed to let her go back to work. Just as expected, people like them just could not stay put. When she heard that she could return to work, any negative emotions that Yu Minmin had were completely dispelled and she returned with a lively spirit. Gu Jingming had no choice but to agree. But he doubled the number of presidential guards allocated to Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin said, although I'm back, it's still better to let Abby be your manager first. Otherwise, a pregnant woman being the manager of another pregnant woman would only make everyone die from laughter if they saw us outside. Sure, it doesn't matter who my manager is. We can still discuss things together. Of course, the timing of your movie release this time is very good. Abby doesn't have much experience in generating publicity. It's better for me to take over. Before the movie is released, I will help you arrange the necessary promotional events and try to work out something with the closing episode of your reality show. When the time comes, we can definitely bring in some box office results. As expected, Yu Minmin immediately got happy and excited when she talked about work. The two of them discussed in the living room for the entire afternoon. They discussed everything from the name list of the people attending the Golden Name Awards and the status of their competitors to publicity for the movie and their future work arrangements. However, they also knew that once Lin Che's belly swelled, she would have to disappear from the screens for some time. She would only be able to go out and work again after giving birth. Chapter 976. How dangerous, she nearly fell. Yu Minmin only left when Gu Jingze returned. Seeing that Yu Minmin's belly was already so huge, Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. Your stomach will become that big too, right? Lin Che said, yes. Isn't that so horrifying? Gu Jingze tapped her on the forehead. Of course not. I find it quite interesting. Really, what's interesting about it? Well, it's difficult to imagine someone as small as you swelling to such a huge size. But won't there be any problems with that? Won't your stomach hurt? Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che in worry. Lin Che smiled and said, you featherbrain. Why would it hurt? Gu Jingze was simply very worried. He supported Lin Che as they walked in. Lin Che said, I've been seeing Nianian go out very often over the past few days. What has he been doing? Gu Jingze said, he probably went out to play. Lin Che had a skeptical expression on her face. Gu Jingze said, enough. What's the point in interfering with him? Of course, Gu Jingze knew that Nianian had continued training for the past few days. Ever since he had left home during the new year, he was more hardworking than before. It seemed that the event had triggered his desire to become stronger. Gu Jingze put his arm around Lin Che. He wants to become stronger. This is something that every boy wants. Just leave him be. I will watch over him and make sure he doesn't cause any problems that can't be resolved. Lin Che said, he used to cause trouble for no reason in the past. Fortunately, he was alone then. Even if he caused trouble, he did not cause too much trouble either. But look at what has happened now. He even has a crowd of people trailing behind him. I'm just worried that any trouble he causes now may not be a small matter. Gu Jingze stroked her hair. I'm here, you know. Lin Che could only purse her lips and look at him. By the way, I have some promotional activities to attend tomorrow. Gu Jingze furrowed his brow. Okay. Lin Che held onto the lapels of his shirt with both hands and looked at him endearingly. Don't worry, I know how to protect myself. I won't go to crowded places and I won't let myself get shoved around. I have so many people with me and I even have Dongzi who is such a good fighter. I'll definitely be fine. Gu Jingze was completely weak to the way she was acting coquettishly. As he looked at her endearing smile and her extremely flirtatious manner, he really wanted to pinch her lips. She was definitely sent by the heavens to punish him. If not, why would he lose all principles the moment he was in front of her? He pressed his nose against hers and looked at her. All right, be more careful. Don't worry, Lin Che said in an even more gentle tone as she knew that he was worried about her. The next day. The celebrities had never-ending schedules at the opening of the new year. In fact, there were very few celebrities like Lin Che who could return home at ease to celebrate the new year. Lin Che made her first public appearance after the new year. Her waist had not expanded yet and her way of dressing remained neat and clean as always. There was no sign at all that she was pregnant. Today, she was here to participate in the filming of a special episode for the reality show. The immense popularity of Traveling Poor made the atmosphere on set very exciting as well. The flow of people was never ending. The reporters and various media representatives were gathered together and the fans outside were also screaming non-stop. When Lin Che stepped out of the car, she immediately felt the heated atmosphere. For a moment, she was a little taken aback. Abby, who was with Lin Che, supported her as she got out of the car. While walking, she said to Lin Che, "Not bad, not bad. They're just as enthusiastic as Shui Yang's fans." Lin Che smiled and looked at Abby. "Wow, you never forget to praise Shui Yang at all times." Abby's face turned completely red. "Nonsense. Male celebrities have more fans than female celebrities in the first place. Their fans are more ardent than those of female celebrities. It's not like you don't know." Yes, Lin Che proceeded to say suggestively. Of course, Lin Che knew that there were more female fans. Thus, she knew that it was a little surprising that there were so many people present at the venue. It showed that the reality show was indeed extremely popular and that they were indeed at their peak of popularity right now. The fact that her fans were on par with those of a male celebrity was definitely the biggest compliment. What's more, this was in comparison to Shui Yang, a famous young celebrity. Everyone had a great time at the event. Because of the sudden popularity of the show, every single person was in very high spirits. In the end, Lin Che said that she wanted to use this opportunity to promote the movie that was slated for release. The rest of her male crew members also expressed that they would definitely help her out. At the venue of the event, a reporter took the chance to ask, after the show's premiere, its viewer ratings and online streams are now much higher than those of Let's Travel Together. Was it unexpected? The veteran host asked, "Why is that surprising? I think that after trying our best to film it, anything is possible." Of course, everyone knew that they could not win an argument against him. Thus, they turned to Lin Che and asked, "Did you meet Yang Ling recently?" Lin Che smiled. "No, I spent the new year at home. I basically didn't meet anyone." Everyone knew that Yang Ling had just gotten into a huge fight with Lin Che's studio. Thereafter, she was taken off the show and given an advertising deal instead. She had really ended up in dire straits after the fight. Everyone said, "In that case, the rumors said that the two of you had a conflict. Is there still a conflict now?" Lin Che smiled and continued, "What conflict? We didn't even know each other in the first place, so you can't really call it a conflict. As for what happened with the studio, that's a company matter. It doesn't have much to do with me either." Then, do you know that Yang Ling just got nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the Golden Name Awards? Lin Che said, "Is that so? Congratulations to her. The nomination list for the Golden Name Awards hasn't even been released. I didn't know about this yet. Your news travels so quickly." Indeed, Lin Che had not expected Yang Ling to get nominated. At the thought of seeing her at the award ceremony, Lin Che felt uneasy as well, but she did not have a choice either. She welcomed anyone who came to her. No matter what scheme Yang Ling had or what trouble she wanted to cause in the future, Lin Che did not feel an ounce of fear. Anyway, if the water rose, she would use the earth to block it. She had been in the entertainment industry for so many years, so she had slowly gotten used to it. When the show ended, everyone did not forget to bring attention to Lin Che's new movie. The veteran host started off first by saying, "Hey fellow reporters, don't leave first. Our goddess's movie is going to be released in a few days. Aren't you guys going to ask about it?" Lin Che's face turned completely red from his teasing. The rest of them also started talking about it. They praised the movie relentlessly, making Lin Che feel very grateful as well. When filming for the show finally ended, Lin Che was very careful all the way. However, when she stood up at the end, she nearly fell after tripping over a reporter's foot. Fortunately, at this moment, Dongzi caught her from the side and very quickly moved her aside. Angered, Dongzi immediately pulled the reporter by the collar and looked at his face menacingly. The reporter was very terrified as well and hastily said, sorry, Lin Che. I didn't do it on purpose." Lin Che looked at the reporter whose face was deathly pale. Then, she waved her hand for Dongzi to let go. "Forget it, it's all right." Only then did Dongzi let go of the reporter. "Are you all right, miss?" I'm fine. Let's go." Lin Che turned to glance at the reporter before walking down. After getting off the stage, everyone merely looked at Lin Che in awe. As they did not know that Lin Che was pregnant, they did not think about anything else. "Lin Che, where did you hire these security guards for your company? They're such good fighters." Chapter 977, It's Unavoidable. Lin Che smiled dryly. Well, she could not say that they were specially trained. I'm not sure about that either. Anyway, the company hired them. Compared to those bodyguards we hired, I can't even say. They can't even stop a fan. Enough. Look at the number of fans you have. Another cast member smiled and said, among the few of us, Lin Che is the one with the most fans. If her bodyguards aren't good enough, she will seriously be swarmed anytime. Lin Che smiled and looked at them. Don't tease me anymore. I have always had just as many fans as I had haters. We can't even get haters if we wanted to. That's alright. Male celebrities don't have as many haters as us female celebrities. Everyone laughed out loud. Although they expressed admiration that Lin Che exceeded them in terms of both her outfit and the services she engaged, men were really not as petty as women. Thus, when they expressed admiration, they were simply expressing admiration. They were only envious for a little bit and would not actually take it to heart. This was why Lin Che also felt more comfortable working with male celebrities. When the event ended, Lin Che and Abby left the stage together. Abby said, earlier, that person didn't trip you up deliberately, right? Lin Che said in surprise, that's impossible. Nothing is impossible. Perhaps she knew your identity. Lin Che said, you make it sound so horrifying, as if we're filming a movie or something. Abby said, you have to get used to it because you're Madame Gu. The life of Madame Gu must definitely be more wonderful and exciting than a movie. It seemed true when Lin Che thought about it. Before meeting Gu Jingze, the most she had experienced was a little bullying. But after meeting him, she had seriously experienced everything. But I think it's probably nothing. It didn't seem like she was acting. You never know. Anyway, it's better to be careful. I think that Gu Jingze's worries are not unjustified. In the future, participate less in schedules with many people like this one, Abby said. Lin Che said, I think so too. However, Abby immediately said again, but you're so popular now. You will definitely have many people chasing after you when you go out. Looks like you'll probably have no way to prevent it. She was right. These days, the fans would all follow their schedule. Such lively occasions would probably continue for some time. There was absolutely no way to avoid it. Lin Che said, that's nothing. But why did I just find out that Yongling was actually nominated for the Golden Name Awards? Abby said, I myself just heard about it. There was no mention of her in the insider news before this. But she has her ways. She probably thought of some way to get nominated. Abby looked at Lin Che. Seeing that the reporters were rushing to ask about this today, it seems that she's planning to strike. But we're not afraid either. We'll see whose momentum is bigger tomorrow. Sure enough, they saw Yongling's team uploading posts just when they had returned to the company. In the posts, they said that Yongling had gotten nominated for Best Supporting Actress in the Golden Name Awards upon filming her first movie. They made Yongling sound like a rare beauty that came by once in many years. Yu Minmin was present as well. She sneered and said, it's so hard to believe. This child was so simple and honest back then. Why is she such a braggart now? Abby asked, so, what should we do now? Ignore her. If we release the news that we were actually nominated for Best Female Lead, we would already be flattering her. Let her be proud first. She's quite impressive if she really manages to obtain the award. Abby followed Yu Minmin's instructions since she had more experience. However, the big boss, nevertheless, immediately received the news that someone had tripped Lin Che and nearly made her fall. Gu Jingze slammed the table. How did you look after her? The people behind him froze at this. There were too many people at the time. I don't care whether there are many people or not. If there were many people there, you should have sent more people to watch over her. I will punish all the people who went this time when they return. I'll see who dares to be careless next time. Upon hearing Gu Jingze say this, everyone hastily returned to receive their punishment one by one. Gu Jingze could not bear to blame Lin Che, so every single one of these subordinates proceeded to suffer for it. However, it was fortunate that they understood how important the child was. They also understood the severity of the situation if anything happened, so they did not have much to complain about when they were punished. When Lin Che returned home to see that each maid was more hardworking than the next, she felt clueless about what had happened. The way one of the maids carefully put down a glass of water that she had poured for Lin Che made Lin Che very suspicious. Thus, she quickly pulled the maid towards her and asked, "What happened at home?" The maid said, It's nothing. Something definitely happened. Tell me." Lin Che held the maid back and refused to let her go. "It's true." Lin Che looked at her with a tight expression on her face. "Are you going to tell me? Or should I go and ask your sir? But you know what the consequences will be once I'm done asking him." Gu Jingze's emotions were volatile right now. If his temper flared when the time came, they were done for again. Yes, I'll tell you madam, don't be angry." She hastily recounted what had happened and said that Gu Jingze had punished all the people who had followed her today. The moment Lin Che heard this, she felt that the situation had not been that serious in reality. He seemed to have been too anxious. She set down the glass and walked to the study room. She happened to overhear him on the phone inside. "I want to know that reporter's precise location. You don't have to bother about anything else. I just don't want her to appear anywhere near my wife ever again. It would be best if she does not appear in C Nation as well." Lin Che quickly pushed the door open and walked in. "Gu Jingze, what are you doing?" Gu Jingze looked at her. "Why are you here?" Gu Jingze put down the phone, maneuvered himself around the table, and walked towards her. Lin Che said, "Gu Jingze, don't make such a big deal out of this." Gu Jingze said, "I didn't make a very big deal out of it though." "That's impossible. The great President Gu even went to ask personally for the precise location of a mere reporter. Isn't that a big deal? The reporter will definitely be scared out of her wits if she heard about this. Let me ask you this. Which place in C Nation would dare to take her in if they heard that you had personally asked after her?" Gu Jingze said indifferently, "What does that have to do with me? I just don't want to change someone's life over such a small matter. I would feel guilty if that happened." Gu Jingze looked at her. "You're just too kind." "I'm not being kind. If you did this to someone who treated me badly, I wouldn't care about what happened to that person either. I wouldn't ask you to let her off. But this person merely made a small mistake. Of course, I felt guilty after she was chased out just like that. Same with those security guards. In actual fact, they already did their job to the best of their abilities. If not, I would definitely have fallen today." Gu Jingze said, "They should have been prepared for all the possibilities. But they failed to do it, so you punish them. Don't be like this, Gu Jingze. Don't punish them, alright." Lin Che leaned against him once again. She looked up at him with a trace of coquettishness in her upward gaze. Chapter 978. I can't bear for you to have such a difficult time controlling your urges. Gu Jingze scowled. Lin Che continued following him and making noise. "I mean it. I really think that you're making it out to be too serious. Why don't you just cut a little bit off of their salaries?" Gu Jingze turned his head to look at Lin Che. "Silly girl." While tugging at the lapels of his shirt, Lin Che helped him straighten his shirt collar. "In that case, I'll take it that you've agreed." Gu Jingze shook his head. "I think you're going to spoil them rotten. They know that you're my Achilles heel. I'll see what you do if they use you as their shield when anything happens." Lin Che stuck her tongue out. "I wouldn't bother when it has nothing to do with me either. But this has something to do with me, so I don't want them to be punished because of me. I was also careless after all." Lin Che rubbed herself against his body. Gu Jingze froze. When he felt her soft and tender body with its unique scent come close to him, he quickly shut his eyes and moved away slightly. Lin Che realized this and looked at him with her eyes blinking. Why are you avoiding me?" Gu Jingze said, "It's nothing." "Hey, you're really avoiding me, huh?" As if she had discovered a new piece of territory, Lin Che walked straight towards him. When Gu Jingze moved aside, she quickly approached him again. Hee. Gu Jingze, are you very scared of me? Come, don't be afraid." Gu Jingze said, "Don't come and dig yourself into a hole." Hee. Who's the one digging himself into a hole? Lin Che continued to move closer to him. Gu Jingze grabbed both her arms in one swift motion and looked at her while holding her arms down. Then, he quickly wrapped her body in an embrace and placed her directly on the table with his hands on her butt. Lin Che froze. She felt the heat from his entire body approach her. The way he inhaled the scent of her body but did not dare to move closer made her heart ache a little. She asked, Gu Jingze, are you having a very hard time resisting your urges? Gu Jingze's throat bobbed and a bit of sweat had already appeared on his forehead. Don't move since you know that, he said impatiently. Lin Che felt a little guilty, although this was not her fault in the first place. It was general knowledge that since she was pregnant, she could not do anything with him for the child's sake. She had also heard that some men had insisted on touching their wives during pregnancy because they could not control themselves. If their wives were unwilling, they would even feel that their wives were neglecting them and would take the chance to have an affair. She had found it simply unthinkable then. She thought that these men were seriously animals who thought with their lower body and also did not think about their wives and children. Even though it was not a certainty that something bad would happen, what if it did? At the very least, they should listen to the doctor's instructions. During the first trimester and the last trimester, they could not do any vigorous exercise like this. She remembered one of her classmates in the past who had lost her child because of this. In the end, the man did not even recognize his mistake. He wondered why they had lost the child, thinking he had not done anything. He also asked the girl about this, to which she could only cry and say that she was afraid that her husband would have an affair if she did not let him touch her, so she could only let him do as he wished. Lin Che would not think in that way. Pregnancy was a matter involving two people. If the man pushed her away instead because of pregnancy, then she had no further use for such a man. However, Gu Jingze was completely not such a person. On the contrary, he made sure to be careful every day because he was worried. Even if he had a very hard time suppressing his urges at night, he would absolutely not make movements that were too big either. Despite this, he was still persistent about hugging her to sleep every night. He was still completely willing to do so even if they did not do anything. When Lin Che thought about it in this way, she felt guilty instead. She felt that he was having such a hard time controlling himself, but there seemed to be nothing she could do about it. Lin Che asked, in that case, what should we do now? Why don't I help you? No need, he closed his eyes. I'll be fine in a bit. Just let me look at you. He quietly looked at Lin Che and reached his hand out to caress her cheek. It was really strange. She was indeed pregnant and had not applied any skincare products at all, but she was still so beautiful. Her skin was still so moist and so pleasing to the touch. It was also very strange that this was already her second child and she was already a mother, but she still looked like a child. She was as pure and innocent as a child and her crystal-like eyes still had a blinding light to them. They seemed so full of youth and hope. To begin with, he had always liked looking at her eyes the most. When he looked at them right now, he felt even more strongly that he was being sucked in by her gaze. He felt that perhaps she was simply so wonderful. At all times, she seemed like a flawless and exquisite doll that he loved so much that he could not let go of it. That was why he was having such a hard time controlling himself. Even now, he was still hoping that the two of could grow older at a faster pace. Perhaps then, he would not have to lose his mind whenever he saw her too. However, as he inhaled the scent of her body, he felt that it was basically wishful thinking anyway. Perhaps he would always be fatally attracted to her no matter how much time passed. From the first time he had obtained her body, he could no longer control himself. He wanted her each time as if he was possessed. He wanted to kiss every nook and cranny of her body and every inch of her skin. She felt his palm seem to heat up all of a sudden. He even said that he would be fine in a bit. But he did not look fine at all right now. He was clearly getting worse. His palm was obviously burning and a red light was already emanating from his eyes too. Hot droplets of sweat rolled down his Adam's apple and underneath his white shirt, leaving a moist trace on his shirt. Gu Jingze had obviously not expected his self-control to be so bad when it came to her. He immediately turned his head away and did not look at her again. Then, he furrowed his brow and said, "That's enough. You can leave first." Of course, Lin Che could not bear to leave. When she looked at his back view, his broad shoulders were trembling slightly because it was difficult for him to withstand it. Her heart wrenched. She walked towards him and hugged him from behind in one swift motion. Gu Jingze's entire body shivered. Lin Che pressed herself against his back. "Let me help you." Gu Jingze closed his eyes. Don't. Really, I'll help you. Anyway, there are many ways to go about it. Don't suppress your urges anymore. What would happen if you hurt yourself suppressing them like that? She lifted her head bit by bit and looked at his damp face. By then, her hand had already moved down towards him. Gu Jingze was completely weak to her touches. When he felt Lin Che using her hands on him, he felt an extreme and acute sense of relief even with a layer of cloth between them. Although she was also shy and taking the initiative to do something like this was a little too embarrassing, she was completely willing to do anything as long as she could make him feel a little more comfortable. She closed her eyes and quietly felt around with her hands. When she suddenly touched it, she felt even more shocked beyond compare. It was so huge. It was seriously ridiculous. Furthermore, at her touch, he could immediately sense that it was still changing. A sudden burning sensation made its way into Gu Jingze's throat. He quickly grabbed her hand. His voice was low and husky like a cello in the autumn night. Its grittiness made it even more mesmerizing. You're playing with fire. Lin Che raised her head and blushed. Fire, yes, I think that you're going to start burning down here if you continue suppressing yourself. Gu Jingze turned her over swiftly and pressed her down onto the table directly. Her hand followed the momentum and reached in from below. His body shivered and he closed his eyes while enjoying the pleasurable touch of her slender and soft hands. He even let out a sigh directly. Chapter 979, Only Madam had a way with Sir. Lin Che lifted her head. Is this okay? Gu Jingze let out a constrained sound. It's fine no matter what you do. Really? Good girl, every part of you is so amazing, so I will feel aroused no matter what you do. Lin Che felt her face turn red immediately upon being praised by him. Gu Jingze could sense her rhythm. Although her movements remained inexperienced and her technique was not fantastic, he found it even more novel and exciting. He felt as if he could not guess what she would do next. He caressed her body and reached into her clothes with his hand. Because of her pregnancy, the places where she should be plump had truly grown a lot. They felt even more round and tender than they had in the past. He had not touched them for a long time as he was afraid that he would be unable to control himself. The moment he touched them now, he loved them too much to part with them and he felt even more reluctant to let go. A mere touch made him incomparably satisfied and he felt even more comfortable fondling them. Lin Che's entire body was heating up under his ministrations. At a time like this, she was already unbearably sensitive, to begin with, because of her hormones. But he was still caressing her everywhere. She gazed at him plaintively with a blushing face. Her ruby lips parted slightly and her pearly white teeth trembled faintly. She truly looked impossibly delicate and charming. Gu Jingze found her extremely adorable. His urge to caress her into his own body and take her away with him grew even more. He lifted her face and caressed her body while looking at her extremely bashful expression. Before long, he could no longer control himself and reached his release immediately. As she had left it untouched for a very long time, he had released quite a bit. Lin Che was momentarily unable to stand it. Her face turned even redder and she buried her head down without daring to look at him. However, in the next moment, Gu Jingze lifted her up in his arms. Lin Che quickly asked, What are you doing? Gu Jingze placed her down on the couch gently. Thereafter, he immediately kissed her lips and sealed her bottom lip which had been red and moist. He could not help but cover her pearly whites altogether and absorb the flavor in her body. Thereafter, his hand snaked towards her from underneath. He sighed as he said to her, Since you helped me, I'll help you too. His suggestive voice, mixed with some huskiness after his orgasm, turned the amount of passion up a few notches. Lin Che hastily asked, What are you going to help me with? What do you think? If I can't control myself, do you think you can? He said, already turning her body and pushing her onto the table. Oh you. Lin Che felt his hand caress her sensitive body directly. His large hands were rough yet gentle as they teasingly played every string on her body, causing her to follow him into the waves. He did this until she was completely weak and limp. Then, he kissed the sweat at the edge of her forehead and said to her, Good girl. Your body can't take it, so you shouldn't strain yourself too much. We'll do it just once. After the child is born, we'll make up for it again. Lin Che's entire face was already flushed. She hit his shoulders repeatedly. You're so mean. You're bullying me. Yes, yes, yes. I married you precisely to bully you. But don't you think such bullying feels very good? Get lost. In reality, Lin Che was probably more sensitive during her pregnancy. Gu Jingze snickered. Because of her slight encouragement, he had really opened up immensely right now. Along with this, he did not seem to be as anxious anymore. He lifted her up and brought her with him to take a shower. They had initially gone in with tight expressions on their faces. However, the two of them came out with smiles on their faces. Seeing this, the maids outside seemed to let out immediate sighs of relief. They felt as if they had managed to preserve their lives. It seemed that whether or not they could survive in the future depended on Madame. If Madame was well, they would be fine. If Madame was not well, all of them could forget about being fine. Only Madame had a way with Sir. After being inside for merely an hour, a huge problem had turned into a small one immediately, and a small problem had turned into nothing. However, in his heart, Gu Jingze had not yet let off that troublemaking reporter. In a very short time, he made a call and the reporter lost her job for no reason. She could forget about having a job in the media industry from now onwards. This was already a very light punishment. If not for the fact that Lin Che had begged for mercy, the reporter should have vanished from C Nation altogether. The next day, by the time that news of Yang Ling's nomination had spread everywhere, the list of nominations for the Golden Name Awards had also been made fully public. Everyone saw that apart from Yang Ling, they could predict most of the people who had been nominated. All of them were A-list celebrities who had remained active and who had done quite well in the past year. Among them, Lin Che's nomination was eye-catching. She had once again been nominated for the Best Female Lead at the Golden Name Awards. The movie had already attained such a great achievement before it had even been released. Hence, the nomination had also helped with publicity for the movie. Among the various people who saw this nomination list, some people acknowledged the celebrities nominated and there were also people who were not convinced. Some people wondered why Lin Che had been nominated before her movie had even been released. Someone said bitterly, "Isn't it because she has a solid fan base? She became so famous because of the reality show, so of course, the judging panel must give her some face. This is an award for a movie, not a reality show. Go and tell the judging panel. What's the point of telling us? In this day and age, people still look at popularity." Someone said, "In comparison, Yang Ling is so small-minded. She specially released a notice just because she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Well, she hasn't been nominated before." Yang Ling was currently backstage. When she heard their comments, she immediately walked up to them angrily. "Yes, I haven't been nominated before. But have you people been nominated before? Humph, you're people who can't even be associated with the Golden Name Awards. Yet you have the cheek to call me small-minded. Then, let me see one of you get nominated." The people behind her snickered as they looked at Yang Ling. They had long been unable to tolerate someone as arrogant as her. Leveraging on the fact that they were stronger in numbers, they became bolder as well. Indeed, we don't have the ability, the skills, and the shamelessness to sleep our way into the Golden Name Awards. Precisely. At the very least, Lin Che got in based on her capability. But some people. Yang Ling narrowed her eyes at her. Thereafter, she proceeded to sneer and say, "Haha. Isn't this real capability as well? If you guys can do it, go and sleep too. Shut up if you can't do it." No one could have expected Yang Ling to be so shameless now. Her face, which had just been fixed up, still looked quite pretty. It was just that it looked fake no matter how they looked at it. And why did she look more and more like Lin Che? Yang Ling did not care what they thought either. She turned around and went in. She looked into the mirror and patched up her makeup. Looking at her own exquisite makeup, she told herself that celebrities were like this. She could experience as much glory as she received condescension. She did not care at all about how many people cursed at her. She was very satisfied with her life right now. She had fame, status, and money. She could do everything that Lin Che could. However, in her heart, she wondered gloomily why everyone felt that Lin Che accomplished it because of her capability whereas she had accomplished it because of something else. Chapter 980. she won't be laughing when she doesn't get the award. Thinking of how Lin Che was nominated for Best Female Lead made her blood boil. She sat there and thought, it's not for certain that she'll get it. When the time comes and she doesn't win, I'll see how she deals with it. Yang Lin slammed her hand and said to her assistant, get someone to elevate Lin Che's status. Make her look like a frontliner. The assistant said, what's wrong with you, Sister Lin? Finding people to do that would cost a lot of money. What about it? I have plenty of money. Why shouldn't I spend it? Should I give it to you instead? I want to push her up. The higher she goes, the worse she'll fall. When the time comes, I'll approach the organizing committee and convince them not to pick her. The assistant knew that Yang Lin had always spent money quickly, but she also earned money quickly anyway. Otherwise, she could always spend a night out drinking and 100,000 yuan would be in her hands. Sleeping with someone would earn her another few 100,000 yuan. She spent the money she earned on herself, so she went even higher. She never cared about her reputation. She had a very bad temper and never listened to anybody. The assistant did not dare to say anything else. She wanted to remind her that she offended Lin Che the last time and nothing good came out of it. Did she really want to repeat the same thing without a care for all these? The assistant felt that Lin Che was formidable and didn't quite want to offend her. However, she had no say in this. Because Lin Che's popularity never backed down, the internet was lively on the day of the movie's release. Lin Che did not take notice. The premiere would take place at Jinming Film City in B City. Lin Che made it there early. As they almost stumbled the last time, they increased manpower this time. The fans were all waiting outside. Lin Che waved at them and blew kisses before she went in. Nan Gongyu was waiting inside. Seeing the commotion outside, he shook his head and asked, "Hey superstar, isn't it too crowded?" Lin Che said helplessly, "It's not like I can help it. The reality show just aired, so my popularity naturally rose." Nan Gongyu shook his head and looked at Lin Che. He could not deny that she still had what it took to be a big star. The two of them chatted as they walked in. Inside were many artists also here to grace the event. It appeared that way, but there were some who really just wanted a bit of the limelight since reporters were here too. The numbers were no less than the last time. After all, some artists were not particularly popular. For them to get onto headlines or appear in the news, they had to do this. When Lin Che and Nan Gongyu went in, everyone approached them. "Congratulations, director. This movie will definitely be a hit." "Thank you, thank you. Thank you for your support, everyone." Everyone looked at Lin Che and took turns to greet her. "Congratulations. You're already on your way to Best Female Lead before the movie shows." "Not at all. The movie is not released yet, so don't kill me. Haha." Lin Che smiled as she greeted everyone. She now seemed more mature and outgoing, yet low profile and reserved. She was very warm, but seeing so many bodyguards behind her naturally revealed her status now. Everyone looked at Lin Che. She wore a long, black dress which was elegant and natural. She had tiny embellishments on her neck that did not look over the top. She did not look like some celebrities who had to wear clothes from famous brands. Her clothes did not show any brand names, but it was obvious from the materials that they were not cheap. She held a clutch in her hand while everything else was carried behind her by her assistant. However, her figure and appearance never fluctuated through the years, a rarity in celebrities. Some female stars went crazy with cosmetic enhancements and their faces did not look so natural. Lin Che's face did not look like that. At a glance, she did not look any different from other people. Her dressing was not exaggerated and the smile on her face was not fake. Although nobody wanted to admit it, the way she presented herself now was indeed everyone's style. A frontliner was simply different and she showed that. However, some people were not happy about seeing her like this. Especially when she was like a queen who was congratulated by everyone. She stood in the middle as the focus of attention. That made people feel disdainful. If it wasn't for that reality show, how could she be so popular now? To rely on a reality show for popularity was as good as selling your face for popularity. Everyone felt jealous of this kind of celebrity. They were contemptuous on the surface, believing that one had to be shameless to be successful. If only they dared to be shameless for popularity. Lin Che wiggled her way through the crowd and found her seat. The crew sat in the first row, followed by their invited guests behind. As there were too many people, Lin Che could not say hello to everybody. Thus, she decided not to talk to anyone else, choosing to talk to Nan Gongyu instead. The people behind wanted to show their faces and chat her up, but there was no chance to. Everyone sat down and they could only give up on squeezing in front. They sat down and complained, seriously. It's instant fame and she acts all high and mighty. She doesn't even bother to say hi or sit with us. Exactly, she brought so many people with her. It's as if she's so worried that someone might try to harm her. She's just a small celebrity. She really takes herself too seriously. The movie is not even out yet. Who knows good it is? Humph, she won't be so arrogant when the box office sales plummet. Everyone looked ahead as they talked. It was a pity that their target could not hear them at all. After all, Lin Che sat all the way at the front and she never turned around to look behind her. She only kept her attention on Nan Gongyu, ignoring everyone else. At that moment, the movie started. Everyone looked up to watch the movie. The hall became dark and the voices gradually hushed. It was also Lin Che's first time watching the post-edited movie. Following the music, she watched herself appear on the screen. This provocative role was one she never acted before. The woman she acted as was a villain, so it was really different from her past roles. However, this villain was only bad on the surface. She was actually a girl who had a very weak heart. The acting was part of her livelihood and she was always lying. The movie started off in a happy atmosphere. It was fast-paced and full of humor. Until the end, in a coincidence, the female cheater was duped. She was thrown in jail and the last person who looked at her was the male lead whom she cheated. The dark humor harbored sadness. The movie was beautiful and it also displayed tragedy. From non-stop laughter, the audience was moved into deep thoughts. They were so engrossed.